Before the presentation of the colors, the seniors would like to recognize the following distinguished educators who are making this year their last year at Heidelberg High School. Please rise when your name is called. Miss Barbara Anderson, Mr. Richard Ballon, Mr. Richard Bennett, Mr. Ken Couch, Mr. William Hatchett, Mr. Richard Hedge, Mr. Arthur Lovegren, Miss Virginia McCartney, Mr. Michael Melton, Mr. John Minette, Colonel Daniel Roberts, Dr. Alan Schumann, Mr. Wes Sisson, Miss Marilyn Toops, and Miss Patricia Filosevich. The class wishes each of you only the best as you bask in the limelight of tonight's ceremony before moving on to the next stages of your lives. Thank you. Now will everyone please rise for the presentation of the colors and remain standing through the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star-Spangled Banner. Old Glory. I was first flown at Valley Forge, then Gettysburg and Appomattox. I was hoisted high on the hill of San Juan and soared over the trenches of the Argonne. I gave inspiration to the beaches of Normandy and Okinawa, to the plains of Korea and to the rice paddies of Vietnam. I brought relief to the mountains of Kosovo and the deserts of the Middle East. In these far-flung places, I've been torn into strips and used as bandages for my wounded on the battlefield and at sea. I have been burned, soiled, and trampled on in the streets of countries I have helped set free. And sadly, I have been burned, soiled, and trampled on in the streets of my country by those who are free. But I persevere. I am visible in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over institutions of learning. I have broken the bonds of earth and stand watch over the uncharted frontiers of space. I am also raised to half-mast to honor my fallen comrades and lie folded in the trembling arms of grieving parents. Bowing to no other, I stand for peace, honor, liberty, and justice. I am proud to have borne silent witness to all of America's finest hours, but wave confidently knowing that my finest hours are yet to come. For those honoring me now, please continue to honor me in your hearts, minds, and actions long after this moment. Remember always, as a beacon of hope, I am the flag of the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
This year, we had a newcomer. No, it wasn't the obnoxious freshman, but it was our principal, Dr. Alan Davenport. Through fires in the bathrooms and school lockdowns, he has constantly maintained his laid-back composure, and the class of 2006 is honored to have such a dedicated leader. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to present to you Heidelberg High School's principal, Dr. Alan Davenport.
Thank you. Mr. Rowland, Herr Dr. Gerner, General Sanchez, Dr. Walker, Dr. Knudsen, Mr. Primer, Senior Class President Matt Shaw, distinguished guests, parents, faculty, friends, and members of the Heidelberg High School class of 2006, welcome. I've had the opportunity to get to know these graduates as we've bumped around together in the halls, each one of us moving through the halls of Heidelberg High School, each one of us working and trying to discover more about our lives and our relationship with the world. It is my job, as it is every year, to welcome you all to give a short address for the Heidelberg High School graduates for this one last time. It's very difficult for a 64-year-old man to address issues with a group of people who are so young. We suffer from at least 3 generation gaps, among other things. You should all know I've been young, and you've never been old. However, I've never been young in the world that you are young in now, and never will be. So what I'll tell you is that I hope and faith of my fellow man has been what influenced me over the years of my life. I often think about dreams and avoid past events that drain blood into sores. All the things I've dreamed did not come true, but the quality of my life has always grown. All that the mind's eye might see, all that the ear might hear, shouts the miracle of that life. I know that man is nothing else but what he makes of himself. He is free of his choice of action. However, he has to bear the burden of responsibility for whatever he does or does not do. Time has also taught me that those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. Sometimes it rains on the just, I believe that. Sometimes it rains on the unjust, I believe that too. But I also believe sometimes it just rains. Neither justness or belief have anything to do with it. On behalf of myself and the faculty and staff of Heidelberg American High School, I wish each of one of you the happiness of a productive life, the respect of your fellow human beings, and the love of your family. Serve your country every day of your life, and may the wonders of adventure and the future be yours. Best of luck, and congratulations, Heidelberg class of 2006. I'm also going to take this opportunity to make a presentation tonight on behalf of Colonel Gaddis, the commander of the Heidelberg Garrison. And this is from the Department of the Army for Mr. David C. Primer. It's a Commander's Award for Public Service. And the quote is, "For outstanding volunteer service benefiting Heidelberg High School seniors and their families. While serving as a senior class sponsor for at least 18 years, he has volunteered in excess of 3,600 hours. His commitment to numerous events held in support of the high school, the senior class, and various other programs is exemplary and an inspiration for all who follow. Mr. Primer's untiring efforts, professionalism, and dedication reflect great credit upon him, the United States Army Garrison Heidelberg, and the United States Army." Congratulations, Mr. Primer.
Thank you very much.
Meine Damen und Herren, unser nächster Gast hat schon seit 14 Jahren Erfahrung im US-Außendienst und hat in Baku, Berlin, Islamabad, Quito, Katerinburg und zuletzt in Frankfurt gedient. Er war der US-Konsulatgeneral in Katerinburg, Russland, bevor er seine momentane Stelle als Offizier öffentlicher Affären annahm. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest speaker has 14 years' experience in the U.S. Foreign Service and has served in Baku, Berlin, Islamabad, Quito, and Katerinburg, and now Frankfurt. He was the Consulate General in Katerinburg, Russia, before accepting his current assignment as Public Affairs Officer in Frankfurt. Please welcome U.S. Consul General Mr. Scott Rowland.
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and the class of 2006. It's an honor for me to represent the U.S. Consulate General here tonight, as well as the U.S. Embassy in Berlin at this ceremony, which marks such an important step forward for the members of the class of 2006. This was a great segue, too. Your class and your classmates have had an opportunity over the past years that you've been here in this school to have a bicultural upbringing, and I wasn't expecting a bilingual introduction tonight, but it makes the case that I wanted to make in this short set of remarks. You have had an opportunity over these past years as citizens of one great nation, the United States, an opportunity to get to know another great nation, an important friend and U.S. ally, Germany, in a way that most Americans can only dream of. In our increasingly globalized society, this background is certain to pay big dividends for you in whatever walk of life you eventually choose to follow. I'm sure you know that most graduation speakers are expected to impart some kind of wisdom for the graduates, and I would not want to disappoint you or your parents. Unlike most people that are giving these kinds of speeches in the U.S., however, I will be brief on that score, so those who have stopwatches, get them out now. Given the setting of the ceremony in this historic city and my background as a U.S. diplomat, I'd like to reflect briefly on the importance of the U.S.-German relationship in bringing peace and prosperity to Europe. Our special relationship as partners began with the heroic deeds of the greatest generation of Americans who liberated Germany from the totalitarian Nazi regime in World War II. That greatest generation of warriors was followed by what I would argue was an equally great generation of statesmen and peacemakers who, through the generosity of the Marshall Plan and the creation of important democratic institutions, made it possible for a former enemy to become one of our best friends and important allies. The story, thankfully, does not end with the Marshall Plan. The presence of U.S. forces in Germany, including here in Heidelberg, helped safeguard West Germany from communist aggression during the long years of the Cold War. When West Berlin was blockaded, our airmen took incredible risks to deliver food and coal, many of them departing from Rhein-Main airfield not far from here, to keep West Berlin alive. Instead of insisting on a weakened and disarmed Germany, we helped the Germans build their armed forces and admitted them to NATO in order to make them an equal partner for peace in the world. So far, I haven't told you anything you haven't already read in a history book or seen in a movie. The advantage your class has, of course, is that you haven't been limited to reading about these key moments in our history. You've been able to visit many of the places where these events took place and see with your own eyes how Germany has benefited from American generosity and leadership. Like all relationships, the German-American relationship has had its ups and downs. Many Germans still recall with enthusiasm the enthusiasm with which they greeted John F. Kennedy's support for Berlin, or George Bush Sr.'s support for a reunified Germany. Gratitude for America's strong support of Germany has at times given way to anger over American policies. Your class has witnessed one of the worst disagreements over the past 60 years over the war in Iraq, but there have been others. German students took to the streets in the 1960s to protest America's involvement in the Vietnam War, and in the 1980s, another generation of Germans was deeply divided over the stationing of Pershing missiles on German soil. The challenges of the Cold War were perhaps simpler for both the United States and Germany, as they tended to focus both of our great nations on the task of defending Europe's territory from communist aggression. The challenges we face in this new era are different. No longer does the threat emanate from one nation or even several nations and their armies. The threat posed by terrorists is one of values, pitting those of us who believe in freedom and the sanctity of human life against those who seek to impose their views and way of life on others and who are completely indifferent to the human cost of their policies. While our military alliance with Germany will continue to be important, it is far more critical that the U.S. and Germany continue to work together to promote democracy and human rights in places like Afghanistan, where they were denied for far too long. Your class has had an opportunity to see how two of the world's great democracies work. You've seen how much easier it is for us to take on tough problems in the world when the United States and Germany can work together. And if what I've had to say these past few minutes has been a bit on the heavy side, let me close with a quote, not from an American president, but from Uncle Ben in Spider-Man. You may recall him telling Peter Parker that, quote, with your great powers comes great responsibility. I'm certain that this education you've had here in Heidelberg will empower you to do great things, whether you choose to pursue a career in the military, in education, in diplomacy, or in business. Whatever you do, remember how important this special German-American partnership has been, and do your best to keep it humming for another generation of young Americans and Germans. You've all worked hard, and you should be very proud of your accomplishments. Thank you, and again, congratulations to the class of 2006.
On behalf of the class of 2006, please accept this gift as a token of our appreciation.
Meine Damen und Herren, es freut mich, Herrn Dr. Joachim Gerner vorzustellen. Herr Gerner studierte Dokumentarfilm und Fernsehpublizistik an der Hochschule für Fernsehen und Film in München. Danach studierte er Geschichte und Kommunikationswissenschaft an der Ludwig-Maximilians-Universität in München. 1978 bis 1998 arbeitete er als freier Autor, Regisseur und Produzent von Dokumentarfilmen für die öffentlichen Sender wie ZDF. 1989 bis 2004 diente er als Leiter des Kulturamts und Leiter des Stadthauses der Stadt Ulm. Zurzeit ist er Bürgermeister für Soziales, Schule und Kultur der Stadt Heidelberg tätig. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Joachim Gerner. Dr. Gerner studied documentary film and broadcasting at the Hochschule für Fernsehen und Film in Munich, followed by a degree in communications and history at the Ludwig-Maximilians University. From 1978 to 1989, he worked as an independent author, director, and producer of documentaries for public broadcasting stations such as ZDF. From 1989 till 2004, he served as the director of the Department of Culture and director of City Hall for the city of Ulm. Currently, he is the Burgermeister for Social, School, and Culture of Heidelberg.
Members of the Heidelberg American High School, graduates of the 60th class, distinguished guests. On the occasion of today's graduation ceremony, I have the honor to convey greetings and best wishes on behalf of Lady Mayor Beate Weber and all the citizens of Heidelberg. And congratulations to you, graduates of the 60th class. You've done a good job. I was asked to speak a few minutes about German-American relations in the Heidelberg community over the past 60 years, and I'm afraid it was too daring to accept. Talking substantially about this complex issue within a few minutes offers a good chance to the speaker of disappointing his audience, so please excuse me in advance. Looking back on 60 classes of the Heidelberg American High School means at the same time looking back on 60 years of peace in Germany and Central Europe. A good reason to be happy and to be grateful. At the end of World War II, this development was anything else than foreseeable. Still, in 1949, the year the Federal Republic of Germany was founded, 55% of the Americans did not believe in the Germans being able to govern themselves in a democratic way. To make this peace become a reality in Germany and in Heidelberg, various factors had to come together. Liberation at the beginning, then denazification, re-education, and democratization. Later on, economic recovery, and finally, the international community of states. In the first years after 1945, local authorities in Heidelberg, as elsewhere, were strictly controlled by the United States military government. Good contacts and a smooth cooperation between the city administration and local US military officials were of vital importance. The citizens of Heidelberg had to cope with the new situation between getting ready to go for a new start and the search for traditional values. American soldiers came up to 10% of the urban population in those days, and Heidelberg was called occupational capital of the US zone. Becoming headquarters of the US Army in Europe, the city should play the role as a perfect example for further German-American relations. But this was not an easy task. On the one hand, we had a lobby representing those who were personally affected by the results of the war and the occupation, for example, owners of houses put under requisition, farmers of Rohrbach who had to give away land for the construction of army installations. Those groups had been extremely critical until they got back most of their property in the mid-1950s. On the other hand, a great number of US military personnel lived outside their barracks in the immediate neighborhood of the German population. They came upon groups of citizens working actively for the improvement of German-American relations. Especially in associations and clubs, Americans and Germans moved closer together in a very practical and unspectacular way. In 1948, for example, the German-Americans Women's Club was founded. The former America House, now German-American Institute, played an important role as a center for new ideas, as well as the university and the churches. The young generation in Heidelberg was longing for American culture and frequented the programs of German-American Institute, the jazz club Cave, or movie theaters screening the latest American films. Furthermore, in that period, the US Army changed from an occupying power into a guarantor of security against the Soviet threat. As a result of the so-called Kennedy democracy at the beginning of the 1960s, German-American relations became more intense until Vietnam solidarity actions attracted attention and influenced public opinion. Another seismograph of that period, from the American point of view, is the Heidelberg chapter in the novel Fear of Flying by Erika Jong. Here, the author strongly expresses her anger at relics of the Nazi period still in use in public life. For example, the Tinkstätte that you can find over the Neckar on the Heiligenberg. This mixture of controversial political trends was a fertile topsoil for the following students' rebellion. The riots in Chicago, Berkeley, or Paris spread to Germany and Heidelberg, culminating here in the so-called McNamara demonstration in 1970. The cause was a meeting of the World Bank in our city. The former US Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, was president of the World Bank at that time. In the 1980s and 90s, we sometimes had peaceful demonstrations organized by the international peace movement, and a very local aspect, there were some complaints in the vicinity of the Heidelberg airfield due to the noise caused by helicopters during takeoff and landing. But certainly, the German reunification and the end of communism in Eastern Europe were the most important historical events in those years. Without the sympathy of the American people and without the strong support by the US government, this change would never have taken place. At the beginning of the 21st century, a wave of sympathy and compassion for the victims followed the 9/11 terrorist attacks in New York City. Citizens of Heidelberg organized various campaigns for donations, and an official reception for surviving dependents was held. This act of barbarism led also to a reinforcement of security standards at all US military installations here. As Germany did not take part in the coalition of the willing in the Second Iraqi War, you could hear critical comments on the campaign in our society. But I think today we are at the threshold of a new chapter in our partnership. Regarding the results of Chancellor Merkel's latest visit to the United States, or the optimistic address given by Ambassador Timken on the occasion of the University of Maryland commencement ceremony here in Heidelberg just 2 weeks ago. To sum up, more than 63,000 guests and friends from the United States are visiting Heidelberg every year, enjoying the student prince summer performances on the castle. But there are close transatlantic links between Heidelberg and the United States, not only in the field of tourism. The United States Armed Forces European headquarters here offers jobs to over 400 German civilian employees and includes a fully developed American school and university system. So, German trainee teachers, for example, have the opportunity of internships in the American school system without traveling to the US. The exchange programs between schools in Heidelberg and schools in various cities of the United States are working smoothly. A good means for public relation is the Heidelberg International Club with its branches in New York City, Chicago, and San Francisco. The German-American Institute, still a major player in the cultural life of the city, organizes regularly the German-American Friendship Day and the commemoration of Martin Luther King Jr. Heidelberg is the only place where this day of remembrance is celebrated internationally. And the Institute offers weekly discussion groups. In 2004, the Heidelberg Center for American Studies, a new and international postgraduates program, was successfully established at the university. And I must not forget sports activities. Americans and Germans of all ages play together hockey, soccer in those days, and basketball in various clubs. Another good way to build bridges between people. I am sure all these activities will remain an important factor also in the years to come. We need volunteers dedicated to the idea of German-American friendship. And you, the members of the Heidelberg American High School, are such volunteers and the best ambassadors for this idea in your home country. Thank you very much for your attention.
Dr. Ganner, as a token of the class of 2006 appreciation, I'd like to present this gift to you.
It now gives me pleasure to present to you the salutatorian of the class of 2006, Emily Toops.
We are all here tonight, I can tell, No graduate is secretly snoring beneath his or her cap or drawing cartoons of those of us on stage. No, not a single one of us here will be dozing off tonight. However, our attention span may certainly have been questionable during the last year. Actually, the attention span of students has been rather iffy ever since Heidelberg High School opened 60 years ago. Forgive me for mentioning math tonight, but if a student is to go to school for 8 hours a day, 180 days a year, and Heidelberg High School has been around for 60 years, then our school has been available to students for a total of 86,400 hours. As if we were here for all of them. Each one of us should have been at school for 1,440 hours this year. But we all know that didn't happen. It seems as though we've taken high school for granted. For many of us, senior year was about reflections and decisions, only reflecting upon that essay we probably should have written while deciding what we wanted to eat for lunch at Mandy's. It's been an amazing year, class of '06. At graduation, we celebrate our accomplishments in high school, and yet, ironically, we have spent most of our time trying to avoid the past 4 years. We always seem to have something better to do. Sleep in, take a long lunch, go to Spain, and even if we did show up for class, we often slept, daydreamed, doodled, or frantically did homework for the next period's class. We were there, but not really there in high school. And I think we've missed out on some things along the way. As we flip through the yearbook, we see everything that we have done. But what book will show us what we could have done? Suppose we had actually dragged ourselves out of bed and gone to school. Would we have made more of a difference in our friends' lives? Been there for their hardships and also their triumphs? Suppose we had actually paid attention in class. Would we have, heaven forbid, learned something that would have helped us make that grade? Helped us figure out what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives? We all had fun skipping and attending our appointments, and no doubt we all have some cherished memories of times outside of school. But what about the times we spent in school? Somewhere in between dashing off to play rehearsal, kicking ourselves because we only had one shoe in our bag for sports practice, and finishing that project at 2 a.m., we constantly learned something new about ourselves. We realized that we had commitment, dedication, and a strong desire to succeed. We found out that even if we forgot to study for that test, it's astonishing how much we absorb just by being in class. Our parents, teachers, and friends have put up with so much this year. High school wasn't easy, and we were cranky, tired, forgetful, and unfortunately, even mean and insolent. But the support for us never wavered. We had friends who would spend weekends explaining to us the basics of integration and quizzing us on vocabulary, and our teachers would throw even more work at us to help us improve our grades. These relationships, these friendships, will continue to impact us, for they have become a part of who we are. But for those of us who weren't here for quite a bit of school, we know that it's no fun to miss out on the full high school experience. We would come back to Heidelberg High School after being gone and sit in class completely bewildered and feeling rather stupid. It's unbelievable how much we missed, even in just one day. And it's not only about the classes. We'd go out with friends, and because we'd missed the fights, the breakups, the significant others, we'd have to sit there smiling and nodding, pretending to have some idea of what was going on. It's hard knowing that we weren't there to comfort our friends or share in their successes, and that some of us will never understand electric fields or synthetic division. But we shouldn't leave here tonight with regrets, ruminating over missed opportunities. Whether we're off to college, the military, or to pursue other interests, we should go out in life inspired to be there for things. Even if we don't particularly want to get up at 7:30 in the morning to go to class, or wake up at the ungodly hour of 4 a.m. for personal training, or even think about doing anything productive, we need to take full advantage of what the future has in store for us. We only have one chance at life. I think we should be there for it.
And now the valedictorian of the class of 2006, Philip Cotter.
It's crazy to think that only 2 years ago, I was that simple American kid just trying to stand up after a 9-hour flight to Germany. That marathon that most of us are about to have to do again here in a few weeks, leaving this place that has left such an indelible mark on our hearts and in our minds. I remember unfolding myself from my seat and shooting a glare back at that typical 5-year-old kid who just insisted on reclining his chair into my knees for most of the trip. I took that first step onto European soil. I took that first step to becoming a member of the incredible class of 2006. We were all strangers from different parts of the world back then, all thrown into this high school in Germany mess without a clue or a hand to hold. I had no idea what was waiting for me in Heidelberg, none. I knew absolutely nothing. I didn't speak the language, I had never seen a smart car. I had never had a Weizen, and as embarrassing as it is to admit now, I didn't really even know what one was. But I'm sure many of you guys were in the same boat. I had never met the many awesome and talented people sitting here in front of me looking so good in these caps and gowns. I had never been taught by the many unique and inspiring teachers who have contributed so much to getting us into these seats tonight. I was stupid and naive, which probably sounds really reassuring coming from the kid who's supposed to be making this speech. But we are here tonight, the product of a city and school powerful enough to rip out our once deep-seated stupidity and replace it with knowledge, caring enough to take our once protective ignorance and transform it into experience. We have been shaped and molded not only through our academic endeavors, but our sometimes controversial extracurricular activities as well. We find ourselves students in the most unexpected places, constantly preparing for that future that's always one step away. There's so much to learn from each guy and girl sitting down here in the blue. Melissa Sidwell and Matt Shaw, our fearless leaders, have shown us that multitasking and overscheduling can be raised to an art form. Joe Wilhelm has proved to us that 18-year-olds with beards can still be pretty cool guys. Whitney Vickers has taught us that being ridiculously loud doesn't have to be a bad thing. Stephanie Arania and Sharita Brownlee have reminded us that striving to be well-rounded will pay off in the end. Pay off in the form of every scholarship available around here. Jeremy Brady is living proof that running away isn't always the choice of the coward, but sometimes the action of a champion. Then there are people like Elliot Boltz, Brandon Simmons, Damon Fleming, Natasha Holan, Paulina Ryan, and Julia Roberson, men and women who are always there defending the Lion name on the field, court, and mat. There are people like Katie Swan, Ashley Hamry, Jacqueline Raker, Bryce Ellis, Evan Lint, and Adam Lesperance, whose refusal to recognize the social norm forces you to reevaluate your own conformity. We have young Picassos like Jim Magianis and Julio Ruiz. And we have scholars like Megan Bryan, Alexis Kuiper, Aaron Duncan, Aaron Toops, and Emma Ely, who stand ready to impress us with their knowledge of the completely ridiculous. Each quirk, each idiosyncrasy helped to make this class, the class of 2006, so diverse and exciting, so thrilling to be a part of. And then there's Heidelberg, the city that we have all come to love so much. We order Schnitt from the Schützenhaus. We drive as fast as we want to on the Autobahn. We pay $4 to see movies that came out 3 months ago. But it's all deeply beneficial, and it will help us in everything we do in the years to come. It's all knowledge that will help us be the generation to find an AIDS vaccine and halt global warming and stop reasonless terrorism and make cell phones smaller and skyscrapers taller. The days of running around with super soakers in the backyard and watching rocket power every day after school are numbered. Of course, I'm not saying they're over, but instead of being able to devote all of our time to finding Waldo and having Nerf gun wars and playing Mortal Kombat, we'll have some other way less important things on our plate. And when I say way less important things, I mean things like paying taxes and holding a job, which I guess aren't really less important, but they're definitely less exciting. As much fun as going to Arches and just getting totally and completely tired from walking up and down all those stairs is. As much fun as getting 2 donors from Tortilla Imbis in one night when you were just absolutely hungry is. As much fun as studying and experiencing Germany has been, we're all about to move on. We're standing here at the edge of adulthood, ready to make that leap into the darkness. It's that same darkness that we stepped into when we made that first anxious step off of the 747 and into Germany, our new home. I know how beneficial that step has been for me, and I know that many of you would agree. So thanks everyone for everything. I'll be indebted to you guys forever. We're a class of great potential, a class of extreme skill and unique personality. We've danced in castles perched on mountains. We've wandered through streets aged by centuries. We've gained so much in our time here, and now we're obligated to show the world exactly how H-Town does it. We can't stop. We won't stop. So let's go out and let's get what's ours, guys.
Phil is living proof that there are cool nerds still around. Seniors from the class of 2006 have shared some timeless moments together that only a video camera could have captured. Now, this is not a collection of your typical candid drunken photos posted on MySpace or PhotoBucket over the weekend. This video, produced and filmed by James Evans, Kenneth Kleiner, and Kate Holder, is a conglomeration of some of our best memories spent together. I give you now the senior commencement video for the class of 2006.
Make you do a double take. Planet rocker, showstopper, flow proper, head knocker, beat scholar, tail dropper. Do my thing, double take. Rolls Royce, Lamborghini, Blue Medina, always beaming, rag top, chrome pipes, blue lights, out of sight. Long weed, sold in, say it again, sold in. Make that money. throw it in. Booty bouncing, don't hit. Everybody here, get your best off the wall. 'Cause misdemeanor said something.
So I put them on, one inside the other, like that.
He's coming out, 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 he's coming out. It's there.
So red, and what the hell is on Joey's head? This is where I grew up. I think the president who fixed it up. I never knew we ever went without. The second floor is hot for sneaking out. And this is where I went to school. Most of the time had better things to do. Criminal record says I've broken twice. I must have done it half a dozen times. I wonder if it's too late. Should I go back and try to graduate? Life's better now than it was back then. If I was them, I wouldn't let me in. Oh, God, every memory of looking out the back door. I have a photo I was written out on my bedroom floor. It's time to say it, time to say it. Goodbye. Oh, goodbye. Every memory of walking out the front door. I found the photo of the friend that I was looking for. It's time to say it, time to say it. Goodbye, goodbye. Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. Every time I do, it makes me.
How long have you been engaged?
5 years.
What are you gonna miss the most, man?
Oh, my friends, my family. I love Heidelberg.
Because all the downtown, all the partying.
I had a lot of fun here. Good memories.
I don't know. Everyone here is like a family, I guess.
It's only for a moment you were mine to hold. The plans that heaven has for you will all too soon unfold. So many different prayers I'll pray for all that you might do. But most of all, I wanna know you're walking in the truth. And if I never told you, I want you to know that as I watch you grow, I pray that God would fill your heart with dreams, and that faith gives you the courage to dare to do great things. I'm here for you, whatever this life brings. So let my love give you roots and help you find your wings. May passion be the wind that leads you through your days, and may conviction keep you strong, guide you on your way. May there be many moments that make your life so sweet. Oh, but
does good wherever they travel. Take care.